Um, yeah, something a bit different, supporting forces families. And part of the reason that I've decided to do this today is that not only am I a teacher of going into my 14th year in education today, but we are also in this family a forces family. It gives us some wonderful opportunities. We've met the Queen. That was particularly exciting. We have travelled the country watching my husband play rugby for the Royal Navy Mariners team. We get to go to lots of places like Britannia Royal Naval College. Our children were christened there. It's fantastic being part of a military family. However, for military children especially, it can be incredibly difficult. You move around a lot in some cases, and you might go to multiple schools, and this in itself can raise a few issues. Military children are represented, if you like, by the dandelion. I'm not going to read all of that, but the beauty of a dandelion is that it does grow anywhere, and military children have to be the same. They might find themselves in Scotland, they might find themselves abroad in Cyprus or Germany. We've got friends in Canada at the moment. Absolutely anywhere. And I think that's the message that I want to get across today. Military children aren't just confined to where you're likely to find a military base. So for us in the Navy, Plymouth, Portsmouth, Culdrose is another one down in Cornwall, and obviously up in Scotland around the Faslane area. But military children are everywhere, and you may well have military children in your school without even realising it. So this is about raising awareness of who they are and how you could potentially support them as well. In April every year, there is the month of the military child, and you have got organisations such as Little Troopers who have got a wealth of resources available for you that you could potentially share and use with your children. Whether you've got one military child or 10 military children, their needs are just as important as everyone else's. So some of the difficulties. Separation is a big one. Separation can sometimes be months, and I'm talking up to 9 months in some cases. For some children, it's a weekly separation, which is a huge thing. Families who are weekend warriors, as we call them affectionately within the military community, whereby you might have a mum or a dad who is working on base Monday to Friday, then comes home for the weekend. That can be really difficult, and that offers a huge amount of emotional upheaval for children in doing that, because you've got the goodbyes, which are really hard, and then when the parent comes back as well, from an emotional point of view, that can be really hard, because it certainly happens within our house as well. I've got my own routines, and then my husband comes home like he has today and decides to cut the grass at the most awkward of moments, and it doesn't always fit in with how I want to do things. You might have frequent moving of house and schools. Some families don't do that. We don't. We made the decision, because we wanted stability for the children and for my career, that we weren't going to move house and to be moving schools. But some children can be in a different school once a year, once every 6 months. So the emotional support that they are going to need is quite significant. Developing and maintaining the friendships can also be really hard. We live in an era of social media, which in some circumstances can make things better because they can maintain those friendships. On the other hand, being that new child in class on such a regular basis can be really, really hard. So something like a buddy scheme could be particularly useful within your school if you know that you're going to be having these children popping in and out. Their emotional well-being. Rich touched on, I didn't touch on, his entire presentation was about this idea of happiness earlier on. And it really got me thinking about how a lot of the presentations today link in with each other as well. Because the children's well-being is incredibly important. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen to them and to share that sympathetic ear. For example, I think the best example I can give, families, submariner families, people who have got predominantly dads, but sometimes mums on submarines. Wow, those people need a medal all of their own. One short email a week is all they are likely to expect when their loved ones go away. They don't know where they are, they don't know what they're doing, and that in itself can be so difficult. Hopefully people are aware of the fact within education that your service pupil premium is available. £300 a year can go an awfully long way to supporting these children and making a difference. You can see there that you've got the criteria. One parent serving in regular armed forces. That does also include step parents as well. My eldest daughter was able to get the funding as well. It's well worth a look. Registered as a service child at any point since 2015. Their parents might not be serving now, but if they were serving in 2016 and then came out for whatever reason, they are still able to get the funding as well. Unfortunately, there are, of course, the elements of when a parent has potentially died serving as well. That's a whole other presentation. You will do a census in January every year, and it's the responsibility of the school to make sure that the information is up to date. The bit that I take hindrance with from the government point of view, service parents need to make the school aware of their status by talking to the head teacher or to the school admin staff. I really do think that we actually, as staff, should be asking on a secondary level. As a form tutor, I can have those conversations. I can check, and it's really important that we do know what background these children are coming from, because it will make a difference. £300 a year. It doesn't need to go just into one pot. It should be going specifically for, not with the other pupil premium funding. This is for emotional well-being. Lots of different places where you can find the support. I will confess that early on in my career, and before I was a military wife, if you like, myself, I didn't realise what there was out there. The military didn't come on my radar for where I grew up, where I trained. We didn't have military bases round and about. But service children in state schools is an absolutely fantastic resource that we should be making a lot more use of. The idea is that we are linking together schools who have service children within their walls and seeing what we can do to help them. And you can see there, and I'll put it on the Padlet as well so that everybody's got access to it. Each of the armed forces have got their own families federation. Within Scotland, you've got the Royal Caledonian Education Trust. They have just received a huge amount of funding. So if there are extra things that you think your children need help with, that's the place to go. In Wales as well, SSC Cymru, exactly the same. So if they need help with uniform, so just kind of consider the fact that when they are moving from school to school, they need to have these new uniforms. That's huge and really expensive. The Naval Children's Charity as well are also there to kind of support and give. Lockdown has been an added pressure for these forces families and these forces children, with regards to the fact that people were away on deployment and deployment dates got moved. Having that end date to work towards and to look towards is really important. And for some of those children, that date has been moved and moved and moved. So they've gone through extra periods of separation that they perhaps wouldn't normally go through. They will just need that little bit of TLC. All of our children are, of course, going to need that little bit of TLC. But for somebody who's had a parent that's perhaps in a dangerous area that they've been working, that emotional well-being is really important. Forces families. There are lots of them out there. Not everybody lives, as I've already said, by a military base. So please bear that in mind. Special events are really, really hard during deployment. Christmas, especially, can be really hard as a forces family when the person that you love isn't there. Let them share their experiences. My husband's been into my daughter's primary school before to deliver a presentation all about chasing pirates, which was really enjoyable for everybody involved. If the parent's in that position, they want to share that and they want to talk to the class, it's really good. School systems are different, obviously, between Scotland and England, sometimes Northern Ireland and Wales as well. Gathering the information and sharing the information is really important. And please make sure you've got your transparency with your service pupil premium. They need to know where that money is being spent. it should be to do with their emotional well-being. Again, the government website is keen for it not to be spent on music lessons and trips. I would argue, actually, our daughter has guitar lessons. Emotionally, that gives her a boost. And when daddy comes home, it's something that she can share. So if you're able to justify it in the right way, then I would definitely go for that. You know your children that are in your classroom, what is best for them, but treat them as individuals. Each Forces family will have a different experience. So that is definitely something to bear in mind. Other bits and pieces, again, I'll put them on the Padlet. Little Troopers, I mentioned earlier on with their school resource packs. They do that for primary and secondary. And a particular charity that I really do love as an English teacher is Reading Force. Reading Force send out free books, which is amazing. You supply them with your age range and the name of the children. Parents can do this, and they send out a reading journal and a reading pack, and they get free books. We have 3 for very different age groups, and they are absolutely fantastic. There is so much that I could potentially do. There's so much I could potentially say, but with regards to that, it's just the tip of the iceberg. But just remember, these children are everywhere, and they are amazing. They are the most resilient children, and look forward to having them in your classroom, and the stories that they can tell are also pretty amazing. And looking at that, I think my time is done, so I shall stop sharing my screen, and hopefully Tori will
Wow. I just want to say, wow.
There's so much. When I kind of messaged yesterday and I said, you kind of realise that this could be like a whole day in itself. There is so much there, and Forces families they're awesome. They really are.
The comments down the side have just been,
oh, I've not even seen them yet.
so I mean, it's, I'll show you some of them. I'm loving this presentation.
Oh,
So interesting, Shelley, and the difficulties you face. I had no idea that happened. This one, I'm a military child, and it just drives home how much I've forgotten about my experience.
Yeah, like I say, with my eldest, I wasn't kind of aware of it, but Forces children, we've got friends who they've been in Canada for about a year, and obviously when they come back from Canada, the education system there is different, and the fact that even moving between England and Scotland, the year groups are so different, and these children struggle sometimes to be in the right place, or they need to kind of repeat